Love, light, and blessings. And this is Shamanic Arawak Priestess. And I am creating a video as a response to Diana Jarecki from Mystical Haven. I was watching one of her tarot tags and I really enjoy her videos. And I was already thinking of making a channel. And when she suggested that I make a video, even if I didn't show my face, and it could just be the cards or my hands, they should be really interested in hearing about how I use the tarot. And so this is a video response to that. I really felt like Spirit talked through her to kind of encourage me, because even though I do talk on camera, live stream, when I do readings, I do them online live streaming, because I am a professional reader for almost 4 years now. And I've been on my spiritual journey for the last almost 11 years. And I had mentioned to her that I enjoy a lot of some of the YouTube videos on here about paganism and Wicca and tarot and deck reviews and things like that. And that I like the community, even though I don't talk to a lot of people on here. I do use another name when I talk on here. Traditional lady. That's also me. But I told her that I kind of use the tarot a little different. But I do like that in the community, that everybody uses tarot differently. Some people use it as a meditative tool or a counseling tool or things of that nature. So I'm always interested to see how people, use it. I come from more of a, I don't know how to explain it. Well, I come more from an Afro Caribbean viewpoint, if that makes sense. My family comes from Puerto Rico, so we are, Caribbean, and we are of mixed race, because my grandfather is African, and then we also have indigenous, so I guess native to the Caribbean, so like Native American, but in the Caribbean culture as well. And so our spirituality is kind of infused in that. So it's kind of a mixture of different traditions, because we do come from the Taino Indians, the Arawak Indians, and it's like some shamanistic form to my spirituality. But there's also the African side, which a lot of folk magic, I guess that's the best way to say it, kind of just using what you have. I am a deep believer in spell work. I actually do believe in that. It's something that I didn't know what it was called growing up, because we didn't call it spells. We called it trabajos espirituales, spiritual works or spiritual work. We never called it magic or spells. Not that I have anything against that, but it's just, I never heard that. So that's kind of new to me. Also like rules that I hear also. I was never, and I did study Wicca, and I have a big respect for it. But I was never raised like harm none. We kind of like anything goes in magic in our culture actually. But we always know that there's some karma to it. So whatever you put out, you get back. But like not really limiting, because we kind of, I grew up like, you would do spells to influence a situation. We didn't see it as doing harm, and things like that. Growing up in the Caribbean and also in New York where I was raised, my mom was very important for us to keep our culture. And a lot of our culture was our spirituality. So I grew up, my mom playing the drums and seeing people go under. So in our tradition, we have this thing where we believe we connect with the ancestors, and the ancestors will like take over our body. So there was some spiritualism. I know the founding fathers, Alec Kardec. So like how our ancestors could take over and people start speaking like in tongues, different languages. Like they take on the personality of the ancestor or the spirit that was invoked in them. And I would see people, like I never knew what tarot cards was, and I never seen anybody use divination tools. Like the way that I would see readings conducted in growing up was they would have like what you guys would call a chalice, like a cup, a wine glass cup, maybe a fishbowl size cup, vessel. Just lots of cups with water is what I remember. I remember there was cups that had different colors. Some of them were indigo, because like my mom would put something in a cup and it would like have a different color, and she would tell me like it's for like protection and warding off bad spirits and things like that. My mom will always have like protections on her door. I will always see my mom pray, and she will have like an altar, and she would have like statues of like saints and stuff like that. And my mom, I would see offerings and things like that, and mostly white candles, sometimes other colors, depending on what the color of the saint was. And my mom asking them for favors, and then like giving them something when they would give her favors. But I thought that was being Catholic, because like another thing too, like in my spirituality, we never had a problem mixing Christian ideas with spiritual work, spell work. Like that was one and the same. I'm not saying everybody of Caribbean descent is like this, but I never understood like where the clash was with between angels. And we never saw angels as a Christian idea either. It was just like angels are angels. And my mom she would be a Catholic on Sunday. Like we would go to church on Sunday, but like during the week, like I would see my mom do stuff. And then my grandmother, she would have people come from the town, and they would get healed. Like she would do spiritual healings on them, and like she would be like an intercessor between the spirit world and the physical world, and intercede for people and take out causes. There would be like ceremonies and stuff that I grew up seeing. There was a certain way that we would dress. Like we would always dress in white, and you would cover your hair. You would wrap your hair with like a scarf, I guess is how you would say it. And you will cover your head as reverence to your deities and your saints and your guardians and your guides when you would do what they call commission, so like a spiritual commission. And then the spirits will reveal like, this is what the person needs to know, this is what's going on, this is what we need to do to heal that person spiritually. And so I would see people do divination in water. Like they would look into the cup with water and they would see things. So it was purely like very intuitive, very psychic. People that didn't even know you, they would just like pick up on things. And I was kind of scared of that when I was little, not gonna lie. And as I got older, I saw that a lot of people didn't do those things, or I didn't have anybody to relate to with certain things. So I started pulling away from that spirituality, and I got more involved in like a more fundamentalist type of religion. And then all the things like the drumming and the ceremonies and the rituals and all that stuff, like, and I don't have anything against religion, but just my particular experience with a particular church and a particular group of people, and that's an individual thing, not everybody's like that, but that was my experience with this said religion, which I'm not going to say on here because I'm not here to bash anybody or anything like that. They made it feel like it was wrong what I did. And so like for a lot of years, from like the age of 15 to the age of like 23, I turned my back on those things. But there was always a part of me that felt like by turning my back on my spirituality and the things that my mom taught me, and aperitismo, and that, it was like I was losing a part of my culture. And it was like I felt ashamed of something that I shouldn't have felt ashamed of. Well, to make the long story short, I went through some things. My son, the one that actually got me to be into spirituality, when he was born, there was something wrong with him. And I kind of knew that because I had 2 other kids, and I was going through a really difficult time in my marriage. I was a military wife. And I really didn't know what to do. And I remember I went to my mom because I was like, there's something wrong with the baby, which he later on got diagnosed with autism. I know there's different spectrums of it, but he has more of the severe spectrum of it. And I was going through some stuff with that. And my husband at the time, I'm divorced now, but my husband at the time, he was off to war, and I was by myself, and I was in my early 20s with 3 children. And I was used to just being like, I went from being in my mom's house to being married. And so I was still young. I didn't have any friends. And it was just a very, very, very dark time for me. And so my mom and I became closer. And I started to see that what I used to be afraid of in spirituality was nothing to be afraid of. And my mom started taking me under her wing, because a lot of the traditions and rituals and things that we do, like my mom learned it from her mother, and then my grandmother learned it from her mother, and so on and so forth. So it was never nothing like, I do that because I want to pass it on to my daughter. Like, I have a book and I write things on it, but like before me, like none of the women that we know of that we could trace back to never wrote anything down. It's more of like a verbal tradition that's passed on. And my mom started to teach me, because I always saw things, even when I was in my religious path, which I ended up turning my back to it around the time when I was going through stuff with the baby. I just felt like it wasn't the right path for me, and a lot of hurt and pain, you know. I was made to feel like I did something wrong, and that's when my son was born ill. Basically, it was the gist of the message, and I didn't feel like I was getting that support. I felt like I was getting a lot of judgment. I was going through a lot of stuff in my marriage, and I felt like I wasn't getting that support. Or if you get a divorce, it's a sin, blah, 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 so on and so forth. Instead of just being like, I'm there for you, like, how can I be of service, or things like that, you know, I felt like an outsider, kind of. So my mom started teaching me stuff, and I started healing through going back to my roots and my spirituality. So when I did divination, I would do it through reading water, reading candle flames, and I would be able to give a person a reading on that. And the readings usually were family members I first started with, because I remember I used to always have dreams, and I'll be able to see things before they happen and things like that, because I do believe that we do have control of our destiny and future. Like, we have control of our own future, we have control of our lives. But I do feel like, you know, there are people that can see certain things before they happen. There are some things that are destined, and some things that we create ourselves. And I feel like whatever created us, whatever it is that you believe in, I feel like we have that discernment and some people are more connected with that frequency to kind of foresee things. And I feel like that if you have that gift, like, it's your job to kind of help others with what you see. So if they don't like what they see, they can change it or deal with it, or know, hey, this is what you're going to expect, and kind of just try to make the best out of it. Like, use it for good, you know, not for harm. So I do believe in that there's actual people that are psychic and stuff like that. I did grow up seeing that, so that's just my personal belief. I know everybody's different, and some people don't believe in that. And I did grow up seeing people read third parties. I never seen anything wrong with that either. So that's kind of how I read too. If I don't see something, I don't see something. But if I see it, I see it, and I say it, you know, and everything like that. But so that's how I would do readings. But I noticed when I was going to go professional, because, you know, you have to cater. There's different people that see things differently. I have clients from all over the world, because I do work online for a service, which, you know, for the last almost 4 years now. And I am looking out to continue to work in the service, but also do something on the side. So kind of expanding my practice. So I'm excited about that. But I found that wasn't going to be marketable. So I remember somebody that I met that worked for the service. She's like, I read tarot cards. I'm like, tarot cards? So she gave me a reading with tarot cards. It was the regular Universal Rider-Waite. It's the only tarot deck I've ever seen. Never knew anything about oracle decks. Nothing. And I remember I always got the Nine of Pentacles, and I had like this relationship with the Nine of Pentacles, but I never seen like the whole 78 cards. And so when I was like, all right, so I'm gonna try tarot cards, blah blah blah, I went on this site and I saw the devil card. Scared me, even though I wasn't affiliated with any religious organization at that point. It was more of a spiritual thing, and I started practicing more of a shamanistic, I don't know if you want to say witchcraft, brujeria type of thing. It was like I was afraid to, because of religious stuff, and I was always afraid of the devil. Like, oh my God, what if I go to hell and demons are going to come and take my soul because this has a demon on it? So I went looking for decks, and I remember when I was like, I want to do this for a living, she kept saying, you know, you can do this, you can do this. So the way that I eased into it was I bought oracle cards, and Doreen Virtue was like the first thing that I bought. I know there's like a controversy with that, but despite her personal life, because I don't buy any decks just for like the person, I never followed her or anything like that. It was more like I like the deck, and so I bought it for the deck. So I will buy her angel decks. It kind of eased me, and I am grateful for those decks because it eased me in there. I think I would have been too afraid if I've gone straight up to Rider Waite and other decks and stuff like that. And then I know I bought the Angel Tarot, so that was my first tarot deck. And between that and cartomancy, because I did start off reading playing cards, and I did, when I started working online, I did read these, okay, but like I said, I wanted to learn the tarot, so I did that. And people like the cartomancy, like, how do you see that stuff? Because I read more, like, I'll know the meanings of stuff, but I'll read more intuitively. Intuition always takes over the book knowledge. I don't have a lot of books on reading tarot as well. I started off with the Angel Tarot and then the big guidebook that came with it. And then from there, I went to a traditional clone type of the Robin Wood Tarot. And that became my professional reading deck for the online service. Because, yes, there's people that respected the cartomancy, but I found that it's better. Like, most people like tarot. So this is the tarot that I read for years and years. And I liked it because of the devil card. There was no devil in it. And I would give people readings with that. And then from that, and I had one deck for years on the online. This deck, I read with it professionally for 2.5 years. Just one deck. I did chakra readings, angel readings, all kinds of readings, because I know the meanings of this, but I also, like, intuitively, like, if a color, I'll know, like, by a card, hey, this looks like the chakra, you need balance, because I do spiritual work too, like I do balance chakras for clients, things like that. And so that's how I use the tarot deck. I read with it, I use it for divination purposes. I have specific decks that I don't use with clients, and I use just specifically on myself, and I use them to meditate, spell work, and things like that, manifestation, working on shadow side. So I do use it like that as well. I do believe you're communicating with something outside of yourself when you use tarot decks, because I do believe that we do have spirits. I work a lot with ancestors, elemental beings, and angels, and source. When I finished with this one, I moved on to, and this is my favorite deck at the moment, the Wheel of the Year, which has become my main deck. And this deck, after 2.5 years of exclusively reading with Robin Wood, this became my one of my main decks. What's so different about this deck is I never had a label for my spirituality. I just knew I was outside of traditional religion in a way. But, like, I still resonate with and work with Mary and Yeshua, Jesus, and Yahweh. But I also mix it, which I've done in the last year. I've also had, like, Celtic deities come to me, so I do practice traditional Caribbean spirituality, but I also blended it with Celtics. I don't know why, but Celtic stuff really resonates with me as well. So that's when I started working with crystals in the last couple of years, and things like that. So expanding to that stuff, because I always like herbs and nature and candles and things that I grew up with, but like never the crystals. So that's something that I work with now, and chakras. And I feel like this deck opened it up to me, because like I dreamt up this deck. I didn't see a lot of reviews online, so I kind of just bought it and connected with it and studied up on Wicca and paganism, and there were some things in there that did resonate with me, and so I blended that with my spirituality. I use this deck a lot for like Sabbats. It helps me to follow the Wheel of the Year, and connecting with Fae and elementals. So I did kind of include that in my practice. So yep, I have about 5 main working decks that I use for clients, and then I have about 6 decks that I use exclusively for myself. So again, I use this for like my practice. There's 5 decks that I use for my practice. One of them is the Centennial one, Pamela Coleman Smith. Also, is another one that I use. And there's the Hanson Roberts I love. And I'm trying to think. Yeah, so it's like 5 decks. Oh, and the Classic Tarot by Llewellyn. So those are the 5 main that are my workhorses. And then I have like the Hidden Realms, the Crystalist Tarot, the Gaia Tarot. The Gaia Tarot opened me up to do shadow work because that was something I was afraid of doing. And that one really worked with shadow work and stuff like that. There's certain decks that I use that are very elemental and very pagan and nature based. I use those too because I do believe in communicating with energies. I use that a lot when I exclusively am working with nature spirits of water, earth, air, fire. Because I do channel energies, I use it as a way of communicating with and seeing what that energy wants me to know for the day, because I have like a separate altar that's dedicated to nature. I have one specific altar that also follows the wheel of the year. And so that one is dedicated more to the fays and salamanders and the delves and the sylphs and the spirits of the elemental kingdom and the god and goddess. Because I do my god and goddess, my deities that I work with are very nature based. So because one of my deities is Mother Earth. So I kind of have a specific altar that's dedicated to that Mother and Father Earth. And the elemental kingdoms. And so I have a tarot deck, which usually is, one of them is usually Tarot of the Hidden Realms. I find that to be a very earthly, earth-based deck, and that is just, I never use that deck on any of my clients. I use it specifically for that. I use that deck to see what crystals to work with, what type of healing ritual I need to do on myself, because I kind of do healing stuff on myself on a daily basis. Like I use candles for meditating and setting intentions and healings on myself and with clients or anybody else that asks us for one. And then I have another deck that's for spell work, is for actual ritual. And there's decks that are specifically dedicated, and yes, they're tarot because I don't do Lenormand or anything like that. And those specific tarot decks are dedicated to what type of spell work or ritualistic healing I need to do on myself for that day. What type of meditative practices. So do I need to do, like what energy I need to work on. There's one card that I pull for the shadow aspect, like what is it that I need to work on and what light side, and so that can create harmony within myself and balance, because I do believe. And that's why I said I did study Wicca, but like when it comes to spell work and rituals, I believe in shadow working and light working. Like I believe there's room for all of it. There's time that we need to protect ourselves spiritually. I don't see anything wrong with that. So I feel like, you know, as long as you know what the consequences of something is, you know, you can try to do the least harm as possible, but there's always going to be an effect to everything, right? The next altar that I have is my ancestral altar. And again, like I have Afro Caribbean descendancy and indigenous. So I have like 3 figures of my main 3 spirit guides that came to me. One is Native American, and he has a statue that's dedicated to himself, which I had bought in an antique store, and come to find out that a shaman actually owned the statue. Because it was like the statue was just like calling to me, so I bought it, and come to find out that a shaman owned that statue. So, and that ancestor has helped me a lot with getting back in touch with and reclaiming like healing practices through herbs and flowers and things like that. So that specific altar is working with that energy, very ancestral, past life. And so I have decks. Not a lot of decks, maybe 1 or 2 decks is each altar that I'm talking about. I alternate them every other week or something like that, or I may have maybe the most 4. So every week I'm rotating the decks kind of thing. Because I have like maybe 20 tarot decks, if that. I don't have that much. I've been collecting for 4 years, so I think that's not too bad. I don't know. And so I have decks that are dedicated to that, like ancestral work and things like that. So I'll pull a card for that energy. And then I have my fourth altar, which would be my angel altar, because I do work with angels. I don't tie angels to any religion. And I have 7 main ones that I work with, and I have a deck which is Dorian Virtues, mostly the Angel Tarot or something like that. There's not that many Angel Tarots out there. And I would pull a card out and see what angelic message I have. What would the angels want me to work on? And so based on those pulls, and then I have my work one, my work altar, which is really my crystal altar. I have a lot of like natural, and it's right next to me here. And I do grids and things like that just to kind of pull in the energies of when I'm working. So I have like selenites and smoky quartz and one of my favorite ones, crystal quartz, and things like that. Candles going, burning incense or burning essential oil on the essential oil burner or whatever the case may be, brings up my vibrations, and I get into that meditative state to do readings and things like that. I don't read in a chalice and stuff online. I do, like I said, I do use the tarot for that. I am, I do that outside of my work with clients. I do home readings now, like on the side, and I do that there because I find like time constraints when you're working on the online service. People want quick answers, things like that. It takes longer to channel and read like purely psychic. That's the reason why I started using tools. It's a quicker connection. I am using mostly my intuition, but it's just quicker because it's visual. It gets you the answers quick. I don't get to do spreads. I have to just throw the cards out, give like answers within a certain amount of minutes, and so it's very hectic, very competitive and stuff like that. So, which I'm kind of used to because I've been doing for almost 4 years. So, but yeah, so that's how I use my tarot decks. I use them for work, and I use them in my spiritual practice for creating rituals, spell work, and setting intentions, knowing what kind of energies I need to work on for shadow work, for balance, for connecting to divinity. So I would create a grid based on the pulls that I get from the tarot deck. I would look at the colors in the cards, what colors intuitively are popping out to me. That's the color crystal that I need to use for that day to work on some type, because I do make mojo bags, so I would do that in the morning and wear that oil, because I also put oils in it, so because I do believe in aromatherapy, so like that oil scented pouch, and I will wear it on my person, or things like that, carry with me throughout the day, heal myself with that energy of that particular crystal. So it's all based on the cards. So it's kind of therapeutic. If I do a ritual, the same thing, what crystals I'm going to use, what herbs, depending on what energy. So let's say I get something with like the Page of Wands reversed, I would see it as, oh, there's going to be passionate about something, but it's going to be some type of bad news or some type of something emotional that I'm not going to see good, like maybe some kind of friction or argument on an emotional level with someone that I care about or have some type of passion for. And so I will work on, okay, I have to work on the element of fire, so whatever happens that I don't like that day, I'm kind of spiritually prepared. So I will say some type of like affirmation, I am open to whatever, something like that. So hopefully that was helpful, and it's like 30 minutes into the video, so I apologize for that, but that's basically how I work with the tarot. I really do believe that we do connect with higher energies. I really do believe in that. Whatever it is, I don't claim to know what it is, like God, Goddess, whatever you believe it to be. Like, I do believe in source, and I feel like when I use tarot, I am connecting to divinity. I do read reversals as well. So yeah, so I started off purely psychic readings, and then later years, like about 6 years into my practice, I started using divination tools when I went professional. So, well, much love, light, and blessings to all. Thank you so much for watching this video, and hopefully you will like and subscribe. Love and light. This has been Shamanic Arawak Priestess. Have a great day. Bye.